Well, hello and welcome to Sports by Compian. I'm here in the shadows, but your host is here, Stephen Compian. Not sure why it's so dark out here, Dan, but that's just the way life is sometimes. Oh, look, a little lighter now. Great. Anyway, joined here by my co-host and partner, Mr. Daniel Gill himself, here on the pod. How are you, Dan?
I'm great. We've talked about it on the show before, but we are now three-time champions of trivia.
Three-time champions. Three-time champions.
So it feels great. Feels great.
Wow. Wow. Really just honestly very impressive work, Dan. We're so proud of you. We
Thank you.
have a fantastic week of sports to cover here, Dan, to recap, talk about the stuff coming up. Of course, as you can see by my, name down there, it was a good week of football. Good times. So, Dan, let's hop into it. But before we do that, people, make sure you're liking and subscribing to our content so that you can continue to stay updated with all these very, very important sports. All that said, Daniel, let's hop into this. You ready?
Oh yeah.
Week 14 kicked off with the Patriots traveling down to Pittsburgh, and they absolutely fucked up Frankie's bet. They fucked up my bet. They fucked up everyone's picks on Pick'em. So inconsiderate, just all around. Baylor Zappi goes off for 3 touchdown passes. Bill Belichick silences the haters for at least a week. What the hell is going on with the Steelers, Dan? Is Mitchell Trubisky that bad?
Yeah, I mean, Mitch Trubisky is that bad. There's not much to say outside of that. Sure, the Pittsburgh defense, 21 points isn't terrible, but when your offense is not productive as they've been with Mitch Trubisky behind center, it's going to make the day rough. I've heard rumors that they might look into Mason Rudolph starting, but I mean, at the same time, it's Bill Belichick. He's going to find a way to, make things work. And they're not going anywhere this season. They're just messing up other people's seasons at this point.
Oh man, and bets no less.
Bets no less. But the Steelers at 7-6 now are hanging on in terms of trying to make it to the playoffs. They have a huge game this upcoming week against Indy, who has the last wild card spot. So we could see a flipping of the rankings there, but not what Pittsburgh needed the last 2 weeks with losing to Arizona and now New England.
Oh my God, they could have had this. They could have secured Frankie's bet in these last 2 weeks, and they just dropped the ball.
And then on top of that, they're we've talked about it in the other weeks. They have tough sledding here. Indy next week, the Bengals. Then they go to Seattle, to Baltimore to close the season out. So,
oh boy,
if this is a win and in situation for Pittsburgh, it is extremely hard for them to do that at this point.
It's very scary. It's all very alarming as far as the Pittsburgh Steelers bet goes. Frankie's sweating, if I had to imagine. Moving on to a different team that also is near and dear to this show's heart. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are now number 1 in the NFC South. 3-way tie, technically, but I guess since we beat the Saints, and I don't know why, but we're ahead of technically they're number 1. Is the point, Dan. The boys go down to Atlanta, pull out a close victory. Those points when we were up by 19-10 or whatever, and sort of let the Falcons back into this, let them take the lead again. Couple things went off in this game, so obviously shout out Carlton Davis, man. He got absolutely torched against Houston. People were coming after him. I was coming after him. He has really showed up, kind of responded to some of the criticism, and that was just an instinctual, beautiful pick. Completely read that play, just jumped in front of the pass. Shout out to that random Falcons fan who I was watching. He just kind of like, dude, people just know we're only going to throw it short or underneath to BJ Robinson. So Carlton Davis is like, how about I just go ahead and jump this route? And that's exactly what happened. Just absolutely beautiful. Baker Mayfield struggled all day, Daniel. He had about 144 yards, 2 touchdowns, but one of them was a rush. Kind of deceiving as far as the 2 touchdowns go because, he could just not get anything going. Mike Evans with 1 reception. To be fair, AJ Terrell was all over him. dude's coming off of a concussion protocol, and like he played his ball. He's balled out all day. Was all over Mike Evans. Definitely Mike Evans' worst game of the year. Chris Godwin even kind of was mostly gone, other than one huge catch to put the game away in the final drive. Overall, the Bucks we got to win, but tight business, probably tighter than it should have been. Baker's been struggling the last couple of weeks. He's gonna have to play better if we have any sort of chance this week in Green Bay.
Yeah, you guys do have, in terms of your division, you have a little bit of control of your own destiny. I mean, yeah, it could be a tough game next week with Green Bay, although Green Bay, we'll get to this, did not look great on Monday night against the Giants, but if that game, tough game against Jacksonville, but the key game is going to be that second to last game against the Saints, and that very may well decide who wins your division.
Yeah,
because right now you guys are both 6-7. Who knows what both of you guys do over the next two games? Who knows what the Falcons do?
I was going to say the Falcons aren't out of it by any means either.
Yeah, I was getting there because you guys play the Saints the second to last week, and the Falcons and Saints play each other the last week. So, kind of depending on what comes out of your game with the Saints, cues up what's going to come out of the Saints Falcons in the final week when you guys play the Panthers. There's a lot going on there. Falcons play Indy. That's going to be a tough matchup. While the Saints also have the Rams on their schedule. So, everybody kind of has a tough game outside of the division left. And I think what you've said, it's still anybody's race. And oddly enough, the wild card's been a little weak in the NFC. So even at 6-7, you guys out of that division could still potentially provide a wild card spot too. So there's kind of like two layers of it in terms of what you guys can and can't do.
Absolutely. And I mean, the last thing I'll say about this, Bucks defense has looked great, but man, some of these young stars, like we got Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, like it's one thing if the kid can't get a sack to save his life, but at least get contained, man. Like that last play where the Falcons got another touchdown, like Desmond Ridder runs outside the pocket. Joe has the angle on him, Dan. As a defensive end, you gotta fucking make this tackle. Dude lets Ridder run them all the way to the sideline and then whiffs on the tackle, and Ridder runs in for a touchdown. It's just like, bro, you gotta do better as a first overall draft pick. Like, fuck, man, not first overall, but you're a first round draft pick a couple years ago. You've had years to develop, Joe. You gotta fucking be better. Christ. On that note, Kalijah Kancey balling out this rookie year, man. Absolutely love this kid. I saw some film breakdown of him against Carolina. Just balled out there. Had a sack in this game too, kind of catching Ridder before he could get off to a run. Love to see Kalijah Kancey. Keep it up, kid. Moving on, we got Ravens. This game was wild, Dan.
Yeah, no, this was one that I watched on and off. I was flipping back and forth between that. That and the Jags Browns game. But I did watch the end of the Baltimore game, and the Rams have looked good lately. I think they provided more of a fight than I think any of us were predicting.
Absolutely.
So that was nice to see. The Rams trying to pull off that last wild card spot that Green Bay's holding on to. So they're going to be a tough customer down the stretch here, but miscues here, miscues there. They still looked really good. Baltimore has come down to earth a little bit, I think, in terms of what their offense was doing. Their defense is still good. Albeit though their defense the last couple weeks has kind of, aside from the Chargers game, their defense, ever since they had that shelling of the Seahawks, one, their offense has come down, but two, their defense is kind of giving up a little more points per game. They're going to have their hands full next week, I think, potentially with having played the Jaguars, who they lost to last year on a last-minute field goal, if I remember correctly. So, Rams are still alive. They're going to apply pressure in that NFC race. And then You know, the Ravens with a huge, and we'll get to it later, huge loss by the Dolphins on Monday night, have Baltimore in the driver's seat. So they're kind of in a control your own destiny situation where they just need to take care of business. But, you know, they have a tough remaining schedule with at Jacksonville, at 49ers, host the Dolphins over the next 3 games. And then they
Great.
close the
Really
season.
good games.
Yeah. And then they
Good
close
for
the
the
season
NFL.
at home against the Steelers, which, you know, it's a divisional game. It's the Steelers game.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter how well either team is playing. It's always a tough game for both sides. So,
Sure.
you know, really, if they can survive, if they can at least match what the Dolphins do heading into that Dolphins matchup, after that Dolphins game, we'll know whether the Ravens secure the number 1 seed or not.
And I mean, I didn't watch much of this game, but like you said, Dan, was surprised to see the Rams keeping it so close. I did see just now, I was watching a mic'd up video of Patrick Queen. That guy's pretty funny, but like the trash talk was pretty good. I think he attacked like Kerryon Williams on this one play. And he's just like, "Don't run from me! Don't run from me!" You love to hear that. I'm a middle linebacker just telling the running back, "Don't run away from me. Come on now." But anyway, big win for the Ravens. Like you said, they are now in the driver's seat to be the number 1 seed over there in the AFC, which we will get to another stumble on. A very controversial game, very exciting game for the boys. But anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. Ravens are right now on top of the world, but they are showing some chinks in the armor. We'll see what happens. They got a tough schedule ahead of them. Like you said, Dan, we'll know more about them in the future. One team we're learning a lot about that people didn't quite see coming is the Detroit Lions. Rough couple of games these guys are having over the last 4 to 5 games. It's just been rough over there, Dan.
Yeah, you know, for a team that came out so hot, they've regressed so much, and I don't want to take anything away from them per se, because I still think they're a good team. But you know, I should have listened to myself and picked them last week. I did point out that the Bears played them very well a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
and kept it close. I didn't listen to myself. Well, you know, they dropped the game to Green Bay. Tight game that they pulled out against the Saints. But I think ever since that, you know, going back to the Ravens, when the Ravens beat them 38-6, I don't think they've been the same team since.
I agree.
You know, and I don't know if the Ravens just exposed a lot of flaws that teams have come to pick up or what, or it was a mental thing that, you know, got into the locker room. But they're, you know, I think they're still a very competitive team. I think if they go into the playoffs, I'm not worried about them. I wouldn't necessarily say they're going to be 1-0, but
it's looking rough for them right now.
But yeah, they're not pushing through teams like we saw at the beginning of the year.
And Amon St. Brown got shut down for like the first time all season. Like I've had him on fantasy, and it was going into my last week. Would have been nice to get a win. I'm still in the playoffs. I'm not totally crazy about it, but yeah, dude got shut down for like the first time all season. Shout out to the Bears. Their defense is playing lights out the last couple of weeks, man. It's crazy. So as a defensive guy, I love to see it. Eberflus is over there saving his job. You know, good for him. Proving that defensive coaches can be coaches in the NFL, apparently. So yeah, shout out Eberflus. Speaking of former Colt, the Colts could have used him this last Saturday as defensive coordinator because they give up a lot of points to this guy named Jake Browning. Nobody has seen this guy coming. He is just out of left field, balling out. But everyone kind of doing deep dives into his career on YouTube and pointed out that maybe it's not that surprising to see what he's doing.
I mean, he still has a great system around him. You know, great receiving core, running back, the defense. So, you know, he was put into a good caliber team. And, you know, they're keeping the playbook simple. He's not trying anything crazy. He's keeping it, you know, he's making the smart passes, the smart calls. I mean, you saw him checking at the line, altering plays, because he's been there for a couple of years as the backups. You know, he's had time in the system. He's had time to really learn it. So, you know, he's a better off backup than potentially most. And, I expect a little more out of Indy. There is a rumor flying around that people believe that Gardner Minshew got concussed in this game. There was video of him after one of his tackles stumbling to get up, and there was no call made. Not making excuses why they lost, but that would be an interesting thing to see next week how that goes. But it's the Bengals. They're still like I said, they're a competitive team. They have the pieces to do it. And they pulled it off against Jacksonville the week before. I think they might be able to ride themselves into the playoffs. They have the Vikings next week. We know they play the Steelers again. It's possible. It's possible they could pull in by the skin of their teeth, but Browning's proving to be pretty steady for them, and that's more than most people can say.
Absolutely. And what I'll say is, the Bengals were kind of struggling a little bit while Joe Burrow was at the helm. I think it's quite clear Browning's better than Burrow, so I think the Bengals should probably just trade Burrow away. Maybe to the Buccaneers. I guess we'll take him, but only a third-round pick or something. But yeah, so keep that in mind, Bengals. If you guys want to trade Joe Burrow to us, we will accept. Anyway, what? Dan, listen. All right, I don't want to hear it. Obviously, Jake Browning is the answer over there. They don't need Joe Burrow anymore.
Maybe you guys should trade for Jake Browning.
That's probably exactly what we should do. Absolutely. You guys could have Kyle Trask.
Or you get your favorite guy, Jameis Winston, back.
That's also a strong possibility. We really should float with some good. It wouldn't be a Sports Like Compian podcast if we didn't bring up Jameis Winston, honestly. And he had a good game, so we should hop into that. But anyway, did he play that game? Is that possible that Jameis Winston put up 28 points? We'll get to that in just a moment. Jaguars, Browns, getting back to that fantasy game I lost. I panic benched Lawrence this week because of that high ankle sprain. Dude was like, yeah, whatever with the high ankle sprain. I'm still just going to play out and ball out. Slow start, but then came back strong. Brought them very close to being able to win this game. I think he's fully healthy. Maybe they pull it off. But Footstep Joe, Mr. Elite himself, gets it done.
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, this was a very ugly game. Combined, there was 7 turnovers. Jacksonville had 4. Cleveland had 3.
Lawrence has a turnover problem for sure, man.
Trevor Lawrence threw 3 interceptions. Flacco threw 1. And I mean, some of his interceptions were terrible. He overthrew them, or the defender just straight read him. So it's a very uncharacteristic game for him in terms of that. And the Browns have a phenomenal defense. I think they've proven that no matter who's under center, they're gonna keep themselves in a game. And Joe Flacco has the experience. He is not elite, but he has the experience to get this team. They're right now they're a wild card team. They're holding one of the wild card spots, and I fully believe that he has the ability to keep them in that playoff spot and get them into the playoffs. I heard after the game on Sunday they've named him the starter for the rest of the year. That doesn't surprise me. I think he's put up I think back-to-back weeks he's put up 250 plus passing yard games in back-to-back weeks.
He's elite, Dan. Come on, he's 30-something and putting up these numbers. You got to be impressed.
I mean, yeah, he's 30. He's 38, but he's not elite.
I just messed.
You know what? All right, how about this? If he leads the Browns to a Super Bowl and wins it, we might have a conversation on if he's elite.
All right, fair enough.
Because when he did it with the Ravens, that defense took care of it for him.
I believe he also has something to do with that playoff run, but yeah. Oh no, so Derek Carr was back in there. That makes way more sense. Although Jameis Winston got in some carries, negative -2 yards, but he was out there for the boys, helping them meet this W.
Eating dubs, man.
Dude.
Can you eat a W for me?
Yeah, where are we? Delicious wins. Everyone's getting wins out of this here Carolina team, Dan. They still only have the one win on the season. Saints take care of business at home. I don't know if they were at home or what for this
They
game.
were home. Yeah, they were home.
They were at home for this one. So 28-6, not really close at any point in the game. That's how you should take care of the Carolina Panthers. Take notes, Buccaneers.
Saints keep their division hopes alive. That's really the big takeaway of this game.
Absolutely.
And it started off very slow, but then kind of picked up towards the end.
Texans drop a huge one here. C.J. Stroud gets hurt. Nikhil Collins gets hurt. They're dropping like flies over there with the Texans. Zach Wilson just looks on fire. Our community poll has actually done pretty well. Thank you to all who voted on Zach Wilson's future. But yeah, he balled out.
There's a rumor that he was informed that he's getting traded this offseason.
Who, Zach?
Yeah.
So you think that made him want to ball out more? Or do you think?
I don't know. And I saw it after the game on Sunday, but apparently he was informed that he would be traded this offseason. Whether or not it's true, I don't know.
Interesting.
But, and I've been saying this, some people look into it more than others. We had the debate with Jordan Love. Now with Zach Wilson. He's spending time behind it. And I get that Aaron Rodgers isn't playing, but he's spending time with a great quarterback to learn from. And this is aside from whether or not Aaron Rodgers wants to actually teach somebody. I'm not going down that road, but, it's a good person to watch, good person to pick the brain of. And, maybe, he's been able to tweak spots here and there that are going to really develop his game that he didn't have, a good quarterbacks coach or coordinator or whomever to kind of do those things for him.
Agreed. We'll see what becomes of Zach Wilson's career. Interesting kid, gets talked a lot this season. So will he be the next Sam Darnold? Who knows? Vikings, Raiders, absolutely fascinating game. The guy I panic benched Lawrence for happened to be none other than Josh Dobbs, who put up a lovely 4.8 before getting benched.
They said it was the lowest scoring game in 16 years since Pittsburgh beat Miami 3-0 in 2007. And keep in mind, someone can correct me in the comments, but I believe that was that Monday night game that it was like the monsoon and the field was so muddy that like the punt just stuck in the ground. To me, that makes sense. If the weather is that god awful, it was like that Bills-Patriots game like a couple years ago where it was so windy that I think it was like 10-0 or something like that. It was a final score, and all you could do was run the ball because if you threw it, it just whisked away.
Yeah.
But, it was the lowest score in 16 years. And the third, I think it was they said it was the third game in the past 40 years and seventh in the Super Bowl era to finish in a 3-0 game. There was one game that ended in a scoreless draw. That was Giants-Lions in 1943. So,
I think it's also like a stat like they're now teams that score 3 points or less are now 1 and like 254 or something like that. So shout out Vikings, bringing home a win for the 3 and less teams.
There you go.
49ers pull off a divisional win against the Seahawks. This game didn't look close either. I think we had Drew Lock in there instead of Mr. Gino. Didn't write me back himself. As Manny mentioned, he's like, I never wrote Gino, didn't have him write me back, and apparently the Seahawks could not quite get it going. Metcalf apparently got a little upset in this game.
He got ejected.
Oh, wow.
Allegedly, during film that week, Shanahan showed clips of Metcalf getting angry and said, anybody that gets under his skin, I'll buy him a Christmas gift.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. That's pretty funny.
But, this
not
game,
great.
I think,
not great. Whenever people are picking apart your game like that and knowing that they can get you thrown out, reminds me of another player we have on the Ravens. But yeah, that is a thing. People will target you if you can't control your temper out there. Really weird.
Yeah, but I mean, this game I think went as expected. I had mentioned on Pick'ems that 3 weeks ago on Thanksgiving they beat the Seahawks 31-13. I figured it was going to go about the same. 28-16. I'm going to call that about the same.
About the same, yeah.
It's about the same. Seahawks are trying to hold on for their lives in the playoffs at this point. They're on the outside looking in, but they're one of the 6 and 7. Green Bay 6 and 7. They hold the last playoff spot. They're one of the 6 and 7 teams that are trying to keep pace. So tough loss for them in their playoff hopes, but they have spots this week, or not this week, coming up to hopefully do something with it. Playing Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's not looking great. They're going to have their hands full next week with the Eagles on Monday Night Football. But we'll see what comes out of it. But maybe Geno's not the answer.
Hey, my takeaway after going through all these scores scores and records in general is that like everyone's been just absolutely shitting on the NFC South. Worst division in football, shit mountain, all these things, and maybe that's deserved. We'll see how these next 4 weeks play out. But I mean, it's a division with 3 6 and 7 teams. And so far, it looks like most of these NFC teams are 6 and 7 or just about anywhere. The Bills are 7 and 6 right now. They probably should have been, 6 and 7 themselves.
Well, here's the thing: the NFC West is very non-competitive. You have the Rams and Seahawks at 6 and 7, and the Cardinals at 3 and 10. So there's one team ruling that one. So like that one doesn't look that great either, quite honestly.
NFC East is kind of competitive. You got the Cowboys and the Eagles there.
Yeah.
And the Giants are frisky. We'll get to them in a minute, but yeah.
But
Anyway, just a little throw out there for people to consider. Anyway, Bills, Chiefs, crazy game, controversial game. Patrick Mahomes is still upset about this whole thing.
Okay, so here's the thing. Like, Dan Orlovsky showed 5 other times in the game that Tony lined up offsides.
Well, then he just is the ultimate clown then. God damn, I can't stand that
Here's
guy.
my thing. But you know what pissed me off about the whole thing? And I wish Cedric was on tonight with us.
Yeah.
Because this would just be phenomenal. But here's the thing. I think Patrick Mahomes made himself look like a jackass. Yeah. I think Andy Reid, who I love, I respect, he's a great coach, did not look good either.
No, wasn't a good look for either of them.
Both of them looked like idiots. But he was like, it was non-effect to the play. First of all, wasn't Tony the one that caught the ball that Kelsey threw back?
Sure.
And
it's a ticky-tack penalty. I will definitely say it's a ticky-tack penalty that they should probably just consider getting rid of because it's really stupid. But
no, if you're offsides, you're offsides.
Yeah, I guess. But like for the receiver thing, it's like, dude, come on, it's a fucking inch.
I don't care. Like it wasn't even an inch. He was blatantly offsides.
It's just so dumb. Like he was lined up offsides multiple times, had a huge drop in that game too. Like, at what point do you cut this guy? He's clearly holding back the rest of the team. Football's supposed to hold people accountable.
There was a reason he lasted 22 games in New York before they got rid of him. Dude, people just make excuses for him.
And people make so many excuses for him, and I have no idea why. It's like in the NFL where we're supposed to hold everyone accountable, we somehow give this clown just so many passes. Well,
and the part that I loved in Patrick Mahomes' post-game interview was he's like, you just got to let him play the game, blah, blah, blah. And that's the most ironic shit ever because it's like, how was the Super Bowl last year?
Yeah,
how was the Super Bowl last year where they threw that holding call, but they just didn't let you play because he immediately pointed at the defense and was like, throw a flag. But I guess you can't just play when it goes that way.
Patrick Mahomes is getting roasted this week, and
that is like the we were talking about this. My friends are going to be on Pick'em this week. Like that is the narrative I hate the most of we've hit 2 minutes left in any game. we just got to let them play. And I'm like, so for 58 minutes of a game, we have to follow the letter of the law, but the last 2 minutes, it's out the window. Like, that's the most idiotic cliche and comment that people make in sports is just let them play. And I'm like, so then what are you supposed to do the other 58 minutes or whatever time frame it
Well,
is?
see, I'm a let them play
that you
all
were
60
sprint.
minutes type of guy, so there's that.
No, that's my thing. That's my thing. If you're gonna not want someone to call it in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, then you shouldn't want them to be calling it in the first minute of the first quarter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My biggest thing is be consistent. If you haven't called it all day, then don't call it at that point. But if you've been calling it all day, you can't let it go.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And if there was 5 other occasions where they should have called it and didn't, that does make the NFL look worse, I think.
No, that's a different conversation. But this
Yeah.
idea that he should have to check with the ref to make sure he's on sides. I'm like, no, he should be able to look the other way and tell where his feet are. His feet ain't that big.
Absolute clown. Kadarius Toney needs to be out of the NFL. Moving on. Well, real quick, obviously, shout out to Josh Allen and the Bills getting a huge W. They absolutely needed that win. So good for them.
Yeah, just when we try to write off the Bills, they just somehow keep around.
It's exactly right. And the Chiefs dropped 2 in a row for the first time in, I think, the Mahomes era, right?
I don't know. It's been a long time, though, at least.
Been a while. Anyway, the Broncos 24-7 over the Chargers. The Chargers just never found life as soon as Justin Herbert went down. I don't know how Brandon Staley still has a job, but
I think he's gone after this season.
He was gone after the season for sure. But the question is, will he get fired in these next 4 weeks? I think there's a strong possibility.
Yeah. I could see them if Herbert misses any extended period of time. I'm sure they'll use that as a reason to why they didn't and waited because Herbert's out.
Why are you waiting if you're ownership? This guy's clearly proven that he just is not good enough to be a coach. Maybe a great guy, maybe has some moments, but just doesn't seem like he quite has the whole head coaching thing down.
No.
But yeah, the Broncos continue to do well. Other than dropping to Houston last week, they continue on a hot, momentum here. And this is when you want to be playing your best football. Russell Wilson's not throwing for 300 yards every game, but he is getting it done with his feet. He's, throwing the passes he needs to. Cortland Sutton's playing a much better season than he did the last couple of years. They're looking decent, Dan. Oh, and shout out to their linebacker, Josie or something, 48. Been a lot, but dude just lays down the hammer like every single time. It's beautiful. Singleton, maybe. You have anything to add about this game, Dan?
No, the Broncos are finally clicking. Is it too little, too late? I don't know, but they're trying to make a run at the end of the season, but.
They're only one game behind. They're only one game behind the Chiefs right now, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they could squeeze in for all we know, but I think the bigger picture is let's see what they do next. I get that this is a little far out, but maybe they're the team to watch out for next year.
Agreed.
Because we saw the Lions get hot at the end of last year, and they came into this season very well. So
that's a good point. You got the Cowboys took care of business against the Eagles, just absolutely beat the shit out of them in Philly, no less.
No, they were in Dallas.
Wasn't this? Oh, I thought this was in Philly, dude. Are you sure?
Yeah, no, the Philly game was a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, either way,
I should have picked Dallas on this one, and I didn't.
Oh no, Dan.
I had a good feeling this was going to happen, and I went against better judgment.
Dude, Dak Prescott's playing some good football right now.
I mean, hey, they got the division lead now.
They sure do. So, yeah, we'll see how the rest of that NFC East race shakes out. The Eagles have definitely been sort of dropping the ball a little bit down the stretch here. But, I think they're going to be okay, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be in the playoffs one way or another. It's just where they're going to be.
Yeah, exactly. We got Titans pulled off a crazy win here against the Dolphins. Just Will Levis just balling out, man. As you can see, this replay keep on going on down here that I keep on trying to turn it off. But the Dolphins defense has a beautiful touchdown. But you just love to see this fight out of Will Levis. That dude was already in the end zone by a yard. And Wilson just lowers his shoulder and hits him anyway. It's I love this rookie, dude. He's awesome. And Mike Vrabel loves him. They're the perfect combo down there, those two. Huge win for them. Dolphins looked uncomfortable all night. Tyreek Hill goes down with a nasty ankle injury, but then he literally sprinted up the field. So it's all very confusing. Either way, I had almost the exact same thing happen to me in the spring. So I know that's very painful. I hope the dude's okay.
Yeah, I think he eventually made it back. These Titans are a team that we can never figure out week in and week out.
Dude, fucking goddamn it, dude. They always all 5 of those wins. I'm sure I picked against them for.
Yeah, I feel like the same too. Yeah, this was a tough loss for the Dolphins. With the seeding purposes. Now Baltimore takes over the top seed as we talked about. But again, maybe Tennessee is a team that is starting to build something here, get the right pieces in place for next year. Maybe they make a good offseason signing, a couple good drafts, and maybe they kind of really have something going here. This is a very young division in the AFC South between all teams, and sure, the Jacksonville kind of seems to be the team that was going to lead the charge for the next couple of years. But Houston's looking really good, so maybe. Will Levis can get
all
Tennessee
4 of them are looking good. That's crazy.
Yeah, and if Richardson can get healthy in time for next year, who knows what they're going to do. But they haven't looked bad with Minshew.
Yeah, and this is a game they won without Jeffrey Simmons on the field. So, yeah, shout out to the Titans. Just an absolute interesting win. Dolphins continue to do this kind of crazy shit, though. Just dropping games they shouldn't, losing to I guess they mostly beat teams they should. But they seem unpredictable, untrustworthy a little bit. Definitely have some questions about them down the stretch here.
Yeah.
Moving on. Packers dropped the ball after looking absolutely insane the last couple weeks. But I don't know if this is their fault. They're just running into the buzzsaw known as Mr. DeVito, Danny DeVito. Dude, he's built to be a New York Giant. Just awesome name. His agent is an absolute mobster. Probably threatened Jordan Love before the game. His dad is just through and through a Guido. Just I love to see it all. It's all awesome. I had no dog in the race. Obviously, as a non-Packers fan. So yeah, it was a very amusing night.
It was a tough game. 3 turnovers.
Do you feel like Danny DeVito's agent threatened Jordan Love before the game?
No.
You sure the Mafia didn't show up? Maybe knock on Jordan Love's door the night before. Hey, buddy, listen, you're not gonna play your good game tomorrow, okay?
No.
Huh?
He kind of almost looks like he's playing the part because he knows he's going to get media attention.
Probably.
I'm just saying.
You're probably right.
But Taylor and I were texting throughout this game. Jordan Love all night was throwing high. They kept saying the wind was swirling there. Sure, maybe that aided for the missed field goals. Even the field goals that he made, that Green Bay made, they were sticking to the post side, which is concerning. But all night, Jordan Love was either out in front or above all of his receivers. Even some of the ones that they came down with, they had to go up and get. And then, I don't know what Nixon was thinking about on that punt that he muffed. He controlled it. He muffed it, controlled it, laid it on the ground, and then decided to get back up. And as he got back up, he got hit again, fumbled it. To me, it's like, why are you getting off the ground? At that point, once you recover it again, just lay there. There was no reason to make a play on it. From that, the Giants go in and score. Now, granted, funny enough, basically the very same thing happens at Green Bay punts again after that Giants touchdown. The Giants muff the punt. Green Bay ends up scoring off of it. And so it's kind of funny that basically the same thing happened on 2 drives. But that being said, there was a couple of throws that Jordan Love had that the wide receivers should have came down with and they didn't. But it is what it is. Games happen. Giants look good. All things considered, Barkley is, staying healthier than he's had in the last couple of years. So when he's on the field, he's going to be a tough guy to stop. But when you have 3 turnovers, it's hard to win because it's a lot of missed opportunities.
Yeah, how are the Giants 5-8, man? What is going? Whatever. It's a crazy ass year, Dan. Nothing makes sense this year in the NFL. Well, anyway, that just about wraps it up there for Week 14. Before we leave you fine people, we did want to hop into a little bit of college action coming in place. We got a bunch of bowl games coming up this Saturday, Dan. Are you excited about bowl season?
Yeah, I love it. I love college football. Watching
Absolutely.
it. You get a lot of unique matchups in bowl games that you probably wouldn't normally see. Also,
right.
Let's be real here. Some of the favorite parts about bowl games is the bowl names.
Yeah.
I love the games that come out of, is this a bowl game or not? Like the Gasparilla,
Yeah, why are there names on this one?
I know ESPN has them, but so this weekend we have 7
Here we go.
bowl games on Saturday. A friend of mine works for Georgia Southern in the Myrtle, so they're going to the Myrtle Beach Bowl with Ohio. It was a good team this year. I've watched a couple of their games. They had a couple of big wins. That people, they knocked off Iowa State. That was a controversial game. But
Georgia Southern always seems like a tough out. I've seen a couple of Georgia Southern games, and they seem like they have a tough defense and just do Southern stuff,
Yeah, and it's funny that the whole Sun Belt Conference is a tough go of it. JMU is a team that just moved up the last couple of years, and they've been on a tear. Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina is another team that's in there. So that conference, when you play them, that they come to play, and sure, Ohio or Georgia Southern's favored in this matchup, which might be a surprise to some, but let's see where it goes. But I think
let's go through some pick these real quick. So Myrtle Beach Bowl, I'm definitely going Georgia Southern here since they are the team I've seen the most of the two. Are you taking Ohio for that one?
No, I'm going Georgia Southern myself.
All right. Well, we got Cricket Celebration Bowl.
Yeah.
We got Howard versus Florida A&M, which I have seen 0 of either of these teams. So just on a random, I'm going Howard. Like one name, powerful, like it. I'm here for it.
I'm gonna go Florida.
All right. We got to split on that one. Oh boy, we got some good ones here. R&L Carriers, New Orleans Bowl. Nothing like winning the R&L Carriers Bowl, Dan. It's truly something beautiful for these guys to take away from them on their junior year, maybe. So Jackson State, actually. Jacksonville State. No, so it's not Jackson State. Okay. So this is Jacksonville State, a whole different thing. Versus Louisiana.
Raging Cajuns.
Dude, definitely taking the Raging Cajuns for this one. Absolutely. No question.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Jacksonville.
All right. Split on that one too. Avocados from Mexico. Cure Bowl. That's just absolutely beautiful. Miami, Ohio. Pretty good team versus Appalachian State. Another pretty good team. Gotta go Appalachian State on this one. They took care of business against James Madison, gave them their only loss of the year. And they're always a pretty solid program, as you kind of already have mentioned with this. But they always seem to be pretty decent. I'm taking Appalachian State.
Yeah, I'm going App State myself. Like you said, they handed JMU their only loss this year. But the year in and year out, the last handful of years, they've been a consistent program. They've been ranked top 25 at various points.
Yep.
And if you've never seen their football stadium, one of the best views in all of college football.
Well, they have sweet jerseys too. Like that all black is pretty dope.
It's a classic look.
Yeah, they're a pretty cool team. I think they got that Avocados from Mexico Cure Bowl. All right, and then in Satella, New Mexico Bowl. Good times. New Mexico State's in the New Mexico Bowl versus Fresno State, which is actually a tough out for New Mexico State. I think Fresno State's pretty decent, right, Dan?
Yeah, they had a good year, 8-4. Strong wins. They were ranked towards the middle of the season, but then faced some tough losses and fell out. But
yeah, I'm going Fresno State. I don't think New Mexico can win their own bowl. What do you think?
I'm going New Mexico.
Okay, all right. And then the LA Bowl will be Boise State and UCLA. UCLA.
I think this was hosted by Gronk, by the way.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, I think this is like Gronk's bowl, basically.
Well, let's go, baby. Gronk just has his own college football bowl. That's hilarious. He's got some decent teams in here. Boise State or UCLA. This is gonna be a decent one. I don't know much about either one though. I'd be lying if I said I've been paying tons of attention to either one. I'll go Boise State. I feel like they're the underdogs in this one.
Yeah, I kind of want to pick Boise State myself. They steamrolled UNLV in the Mountain West championship game. I watched a handful.
Yeah,
of
they
that.
did. I did see that.
But also part of me, UCLA has looked good this year, but they did have some, they had some quality wins. They also had some tough losses, ranked at various points in the year as well. But I think UCLA is going to edge them out.
Fair enough. It should be a good one. These night ones are actually definitely worth tuning in for. Cal versus Texas Tech. Although we are going to be getting busy, getting pretty hammered during the Ravens pub crawl coming up this weekend. But if we have time, Dan, we will try to pay attention to these bowl games, won't we?
Try.
Radiance Technology Independence Bowl. What a just absolutely amazing bowl to win here. I think Texas Tech takes this one, though. Cal has been getting spanked by all their Western rivals. Granted, there are some scary Western rivals. But Texas Tech, I think I've seen it has had a better season. I'm basing
Cal did
pretty much nothing, but
Cal did knock off UCLA.
How did they?
Cal did knock off UCLA in their last match.
Oh, okay.
But I think I'm going to go Texas Tech myself.
I guess I just have a bad impression of Cal from like some point in this year. It was probably like early October. They were just getting spanked by Washington, but that was Washington.
But it's Washington.
As Washington, exactly. So, yeah, I guess I can't hold that against Cal. So you're going Cal on this one?
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it, people. Tune into some college football going on this weekend. And, of course, there'll be NFL action taking place as well. Pick'em taking place this week also here by Sports by Compian. Before we leave this fine place, Dan, do you have anything to say about all the stuff that is taking place in the NFL, in life, where we are as a country?
Yeah, I guess one thing that I didn't mention earlier was another rumor that has since came out is that the Patriots will be moving on from Bill Belichick.
I heard this. Gerard Mayo taking over. Brilliant strategy.
This is one that I think next week when we have Cooper on, we'll dive more into this. But a little bit of shocker that they're announcing it now, much like the Ron Rivera one. But that being said, now it's where is he going to end up? Washington, LA with the Chargers. People have thrown out the Raiders.
Bucks will take him.
The Bucks, you could take them, yeah, or you know what, the man's been doing this for a hot minute. Maybe he'll just retire.
Dude, he is so old. Why wouldn't you? I mean, I think he's chasing that win record, but
yeah, probably. So another shocking development that has came out over the last 48 hours or so. But yeah, kind of sitting and waiting for as I believe it's called Black Monday, after the last game of the season where everybody gets fired. So
we'll see what happens. I bet some coaches definitely not looking forward to it. Anyway, Dan, we have talked some NFL football. We have talked some college football that we didn't know much about. And we have provided some excellent sports coverage, a little bit vague in some spots. We people think that you guys, personally, whoever it is who's watching this video right now, besides liking and subscribing to our content, go out and, do something nice for somebody, even if it's just somebody in your old household. Maybe, do their dishes, take them for a walk if they're a dog, or, just a hyper child. Either way, Sports by Compian, we're out of here.